Hi there. Welcome to Startup Steroid. Today I'm interviewing Jaden Risner. He is the CEO and founder of Family Proud. This is a fantastic company that he started with a very specific goal. He's a veteran himself, and he's starting with that as his target market to really help people in need. So this is a fantastic mission, fantastic story, and I can't wait to share it with all of you. But before that, let's a little bit of housekeeping. If you're an investor and are looking to invest in Jaden's company in Family Proud, or any other company on the Startup Steroid platform, go to startupsteroid.com and register as an investor so you have access to our database. If you are a founder and are also looking to raise money, you can go to startupsteroid.com and register as a founder and fill out the profile so we get all of your information added to our system. Having said all of that, let's get into the interview. So, Jaden, welcome to Startup Steroid. Thank you so much for coming on today. Today, we have so many interesting things to talk about and topics to get into. But let's start with your background first. So, you were in the service. Tell me a little bit about your service to our country and how you sort of that experience sort of shaped your story.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. And certainly, it's a journey, as everyone's story. But for me, my story spent 12 years active duty Navy, attended the Naval Academy. I had always wanted to fly. Growing up, actually in the Los Angeles area, so flew out of Santa Monica Airport there growing up, and
Oh,
fueling planes to pay for my flight lessons. And ended up being fortunate to go to the Naval Academy and being selected for aviation. Spent about 12 years. About 7 deployments. So both on the blue side, which we say is going out to sea on the aircraft carriers as a helicopter pilot, and then was fortunate to go over to the special operations side, flying helicopters in support of a lot of the SEALs and all the fun things, mostly at night, that we do. And so, a number of deployments in, and for me, it's always been about service and helping others. Certainly saw a lot of the sailors and Marines that I worked with go through some situations, and then unfortunately had an instance where on one of my deployments, mother had a heart attack. So there's that concept of remote support that I went through. And then a number of years after that, my father went through cancer. And so I actually left the service specifically to kind of ground myself and taking care of my family. I was inspired to find a better way for caregivers and families out there. And so left the service. I'm still a reservist, so I call, still honored to serve in that capacity, but committed myself otherwise and transitioned, did my MBA, and founded Family Proud.
Fantastic. That's such a great start to the story. And we'll talk about your MBA and the app that you're creating now, the platform, I should say, that you're creating now. But let's focus on your service one more minute, because this is such an important thing. A lot of people, when they talk about military service and going abroad, you're talking about doing, once you come back, they're thinking about service back to those servicemen and women that are away from home. But people forget the families that they're leaving behind, and maintaining that connection and wanting to support the families that are still here. So this is such an important thing to realize, that when the family is struggling, it affects the men and women that are abroad. It
Right.
affects the service that they're providing to us. So it's important to realize that we need to create something for the families here also, right?
Yeah, I think for military families, there's a ton of need in terms of the loved ones being overseas. They may be navigating a healthcare journey back home. So even they may not be single parents, but when their loved one is away, they are, right? And so
Right.
their ability to lean on a trusted community, their ability to have access to resources, and in terms of any melting pot snapshot of the US, when you think about diversity, there's no greater example than the military. When you think about every walk of life, every background, every location, really, covers the spectrum of different families that are serving. And so certainly a ton of need there that I firsthand have experienced.
Nice. No, that's so important to realize. So let's talk about what happened after you came back. You said you went to business school, got your MBA, and in that process, you actually sort of perfected your business plan for the platform you're building now. So let's talk a little bit about that. Tell me how that story evolved.
Yeah, really, really, certainly for myself was intentional to do my MBA, to give myself a business acumen to pursue Family Proud. I knew that was something that I wanted to do, back to the mission focused side of the military, executing with scarce resources or, having a mission and going after it. But the MBA provided certainly a ton of tool sets. And most importantly, that's where I met Clay, our co-founder, in the MBA program. And of course, there's no better place to exercise the business muscles than blending academia and real life and making the best decisions from that while in helping us grow. So actually there was a ton there that we're able to leverage, both resources, network, in terms of our early stage coming out of the gate. So that was exciting. The school's incubator program, but most importantly, the network and Clay, his background as a classmate, we quickly became brothers. Himself also a veteran, military veteran, and Clay's background, when he was in the service, was diagnosed with cancer. He beat it the first time, was actually diagnosed a second time, terminal. And thanks to a 10th degree of separation of family and friends, they actually were able to identify someone who knew of a clinical trial at UCSD that he was eligible for, and that ultimately ended up saving his life. And so Clay committed himself back to patient care, patient advocacy, and went into healthcare administration, is now a healthcare executive at UCSD. And so Clay
Wow.
understood the patient and advocacy side. I, of course, understand the caregiver side. Having
Right.
been now an informal caregiver to my mom for about 5 years, ended up moving her down to San Diego. And we came together, I always call him my brother and better half, and we knew that, despite all the amazing things going on in healthcare, end of the day, the families are still the ones carrying the burden. So how can we provide through technology a platform that helps them navigate that care journey? And so that was the kind of the combining force of going to do the MBA program and where Family Proud was born from. So
Absolutely. And that's such a fantastic connection. You guys both have the same North Star. And just to make sure, Clay's 100% okay now, he's healthy and he's good to go, right?
he is, yeah. And
Awesome.
small side note too. So yeah, 6 months after he was discharged from terminal cancer, he actually ran Ironman Kona. So he
Wow.
trained for the Ironman during terminal cancer treatment, which is a whole nother amazing story. But I just wanted to bring that up because Saturday, a few days ago, was his 10th anniversary of running that Ironman. And now he's actually
Wow.
training to swim Catalina Channel. We could tangent on that for a while. And I'll be paddling with him. So that's the next, a challenge of his that he's going to dedicate to Family Proud and the families we support. So
Catalina Channel, that's
yeah,
tough.
26 mile swim. Yeah.
Oh my God. Wow.
So
Okay.
you should come on the support boat, right? It'll be a fun event. So I'll be
That's
paddling, so
fine.
I'll be
Yeah.
swimming.
On a support boat, I'm good.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Fantastic. No, so it's such a great story, and both of you, like I said, you have your North Star, and you guys are obviously hard workers. And not anyone to take things lightly. So now let's talk about Family Proud, because you guys are bringing the same drive and same mission to what you're doing there. So tell me how the platform evolved and what sort of the big picture story is.
Yeah, absolutely. Big picture, Family Proud is a family care management platform, and the focus is on supporting families and really enhancing their care. So,
Right.
the problem that we're addressing is, of course, emotional and financial, the burdens of care. So, emotional for a family, when that diagnosis or that situation, adversity hits them, what do I do? Who do I talk to? And then sadly, we know financially, medical expenses are actually the number one reason families go bankrupt. And so our ability to help offset some of those out-of-pocket expenses while holding their hand and being that warmth for them through that care journey is what the platform was designed to do. And so instead of just a siloed resource tool, it's the technology to help them based on that adversity go through that care journey. So the evolution, it's certainly, it's been, and, the interesting aspect there is it has evolved, but it's always, like you said, followed the North Star, ultimately supporting patients and families.
Right, right. So let's talk a little bit more about the platform and more specifically what you guys are actually doing, because that's really interesting. It's not, you're not actually providing the service, but you're bringing people together. You're building those connections. So tell me a little bit more about that sort of path forward.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And, we have a pretty deep understanding, of course, on the healthcare side, both from Clay, I mean, our personal experiences, but Clay is also, healthcare exec,
Yep.
also a graduate of NextCube as a digital health accelerator. But the really interesting aspect is that, the stronger a family or community is, or is educated, or has the tools to support someone in their care journey, the higher likelihood that that person will have better outcomes and have a more successful journey. And so there's always people asking, how can I help? And so we always say we are making support easy, supporting someone easy, whether it's contributing, knowing what to say, what not to say, how to help, how to support them from a distance, such as I was, whether it's monetary, knowing exactly where that money is going, and that transparent support through the registry. So, there's some really interesting aspects of the support journey of what that looks like. And so the ability to activate an existing community through both peer-to-peer, so they're connecting, families are able to connect to other families with similar hardships, they're able to connect to the right resources. The better you facilitate, that experience in terms of it just being a Facebook group with noise, or just a GoFundMe that there's no transparency, it'll actually, supports that family through that care journey, and helps the supporters and caregivers as well. So, that's the initial approach there was certainly, there's of course the healthcare outcome impact, but there's also value to the patients and families. And then from the business and organizational perspective, there's actual value and analytics to seeing what is helping them, identifying
Right.
who is at risk, and providing that information back to them so they can make better resource alignment decisions, through the process.
Right. So yeah, no, this is great. Just to understand again, the community is, their network. So it could be people that they're connected over Facebook, the family, friends, alumni, or whoever, that community is. Now we're
Right.
bringing them to essentially support for this illness or this health issue that they might be fighting. Is that right?
Yep, no, that's definitely a part of it. And it's, of course, respecting a family's privacy. A family may be very private, so they may only want their family on there. But we also recognize family is not just those you're related to, but community,
Right.
organization, like you said, school, organization. So the ability to provide a way that's not, that's a private but secure and tangible support mechanism for an organization is the value we provide to the table, which of course leads into the model that we're pursuing. And so
Got it.
really, we always talk about activating existing community. We're not looking to reinvent the community, but helping provide the technology to facilitate that support of existing communities or families.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that in
Sure.
two
Yeah.
seconds. But
All
first,
right.
I want to also clarify that the support that we're talking about, there is a financial aspect of it. So people, donating to a loved one's care, but there's also the emotional and it might be even physical support that the community can bring to this
Right.
patient, right?
Yeah. A quick use case, is Lucy's family. Lucy is a child who is diagnosed with cancer, Rady Children's in San Diego, actual use case. Of course, not the names, but they're now admitted. Now Lucy's mom is able to connect with another mom who's been through a similar treatment. They can share those lessons learned. It also shares with them, here are the top products and services that have helped other families that have gone through a similar experience. So now Lucy's family is able to share that with their network. So even if Lucy's family or support networks in New York, across the country, across the world, they may not be able to be there to sign up for I'm bringing dinner Wednesday, or picking up medication, or delivering homework, whatever the very tangible immediate circle can provide support for, but they may be able to contribute. I'm going to subscribe $100 a month to Lucy's family, that it will go towards, I know, these vetted products and services that will go to Lucy's family. I'm in New York, I receive a report and a notification, whether SMS or email, saying, this is how you've supported Lucy's family. Would you like to continue to contribute? Would you like to sponsor other families? So even there's a subscription aspect to supporting the family, but it's that transparent support. So financial that goes to products and services as well as emotional.
Right. So instead of bringing someone dinner, you might be sponsoring their dinner. So essentially paying for it, but the food is getting
Right.
delivered from a restaurant. So
And this is where it gets exciting with the AI and ML roadmap that we have is if someone, for example, needs food or a ride, of course, it looks to activate the immediate network. So who can bring dinner next Wednesday after their treatment? And
right.
it offers the opportunity for people to sign up. But if not, it then prompts the network, 3 days out, no one signed up, contribute credit basket or Uber Eats so that they can get the dinner. So Interchange works to ultimately make sure that that need is supported.
Oh, that's awesome. Fantastic. So now going back to the building actually that network and bringing on new customers, I understand that a lot of times the more sort of challenging piece of this is the acquiring each new patient or each new customer for you, and then bringing on that whole community to the platform. So you have a different approach. You're not going B2C, going to individual customers, you're going more B2B. So let's talk a little bit more about how you're actually bringing on customers to your platform.
Yeah, and these are lessons learned from, we successfully did a pilot with Rady Children's Hospital, in terms of them introducing it as a resource tool. We attempted some marketing, early stages on that B2C approach and quickly learned that, CAC and aspect of a direct to consumer, direct to family, if you will, is exponential. And so our ability to acquire and what we say support families is actually a faster route to support more families through essentially acquisition of organizations in the B2B approach. And so finding mission aligned organizations, whether it's healthcare or the support organizations that we're now pursuing, because that's actually a lower barrier than B2B healthcare. We know that sales cycle is infinite. And so where all the families are going once they discharge are actually these support organizations. So when you're talking about cancer organizations, family support organizations, these larger organizations, whether nonprofit or for-profit, have these existing communities of families in need. And we're essentially partnering with through those organizations, the B2B aspect that allows and incentivizes the organizations to co-market it to their families. And so, of course, it drops our CAC in acquiring those families. Of course, there's revenue on the contract side with those organizations. So essentially, that steps us into the B2B licensing of Family Proud to those organizations. And so, for example, one organization could be 10,000 families. And so, when you look at the aspect of what that would have costed us on a direct to consumer, it's a little bit different. So
Right, right. No, absolutely. I know you've already spoken to a whole bunch of other organizations, which we've talked about privately as we were doing our due diligence. But I don't know if you're able to mention any specific groups publicly and discuss what that relationship was like from from starting point to where now it's actually a relationship that you can rely on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is where, there are no shortcuts in progress, right? And so, of course, these relationships and startups, it is being able to survive some of these sales cycles. And so, phase plan wise, we do have relationships with large healthcare organizations and institutions, San Diego and outside of San Diego. But, to get there, obviously, we're not going to wait. Right. It's one of the, we need to keep moving. Of course, we have great relationships. The fact that they're including us on corporate strategy calls with other, partnership opportunities, like it's great that we're top of mind. But in terms of revenue and engagement, the support organizations are, a focus point. And so much what we do in this, the space is the fact that we're able to actually position ourselves as a trusted community organization because of our backgrounds. Is actually a huge, stepping stone in that, whether it's Clay's work in the advocacy space, the fact that I'm actually a caregiver, of course, our service background. So relationship wise, we've moved a lot of those into whether, board meeting approval, contract discussions, that's where we are right now, which is really exciting. And I think, the strategy wise, we were focused in the oncology cancer space to start, and definitely still a focus area, but we also recognize that because of our background on the military aspect and military families, there's actually even lower barrier of entry in terms of, faster engagement and contract to that funnel. So for example, the Honor Foundation, which is the foundation that transitions special operations families from active duty to out of the military, but providing that private secure network that families can now support one another, once again, is the ability to potentially sign some of these contracts in our funnel on the military family aspect. So yeah, excited to share there. There's a few more, but obviously, those will be offline.
Absolutely. No, I totally understand. And I think the other very important thing to realize is that, it's one thing to market to these groups. And that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a white label product that you will essentially hand off to them. You'll still provide back office and maintain, and obviously it's
That's right.
data for your AI, but this is not under the Family Proud flag. This is a white label product that these guys can use, right?
Right, exactly. And that obviously goes into the pricing structure. If they want to white label it, there's obviously a different cost associated
Yep.
versus just a licensing grouping. So that allows us to kind of build different SLAs into those tiers. So, that's a value to both sides. Of course, the brand aspect is important to some. So.
Right. No, but I mean, more importantly, I think they feel much more comfortable marketing it to their audience, to their community, if
Right.
their name is on it, right?
Absolutely. And that's, exactly right. Where we're saying we're empowering existing community, no issue that, this is powered by Family Proud, but it is completely your, platform. We're certainly providing the software for you to do that. And that's kind of the beauty of some of these organizations is that most of these discussions are multi-year SaaS contracts, which,
Right.
for our stage, a multi-year is because they look at it from a relationship perspective. And so it's not just, of course, there's the ability to switch that over, which we know on the tech side is 100% possible. But a lot of these organizations, are looking at it in a multi-year relationship aspect. So, which is
Yeah. And
obviously
from your
a
perspective,
positive. So.
yeah, from your perspective, having a partner like that, having a customer like that for the long term is extremely important, because now that's a cash flow that you can
That's right.
rely on and build your
That's
company
right.
off. So fantastic, fantastic. So tell me roughly how many we don't have to get into the specifics, but how many customers you have now, what the community looks like now, how many patients, and any numbers or ballparks you can share with us.
Yeah, so far we save families roughly several thousands of dollars through the registry and our care kits, which is great. Of course, right now, during a time of need, especially, and then roughly around 150, 200 families supported through the pilot and beta program. And then, of course, now we're targeting 3 major customers right now that can be anywhere 10,000 plus families in support in the next year. So that's kind of our track, if you will. And then, of course, on the funnel side, these organizations, that obviously ties to, there's so much more we can be doing on the marketing aspect in terms of these organizations, which is why we're at that early growth stage to keep moving. So.
Fantastic. Okay, so that's great, and you're obviously through your sort of MVP phase and sort of beta testing, and now you're moving on from there. Tell me more about what that roadway looks like. You mentioned right now we're starting with servicemen and women. We're focused on oncology, and there might be more specific fields. But what does the story look like as we sort of look ahead next 12, 24 months?
Yeah, no, exciting. I like the 12 to 24 month question. Most people are asking 3 to 12, right? But no, it's exciting because there's a ton of crossover. I think we can obviously be really effective in continuing to prove this out in the military family aspect as we foster the commercial side in terms of on the healthcare, more support organizations. And, in terms of strategy wise, it's really unique positioning because aligning with these support organizations actually allows us both data and engagement to then turn around to the Kaiser Sharp all the healthcare and say, we already have, X number of your families on our platform, right? And this is what we're doing. And when you actually look at it in a long-term strategy, there is a data play here. And, PII or Move being sensitive to privacy and security, there's still a lot of valuable engagement data in terms of, a lot of the healthcare spaces, on the clinical side is around the patient, post-discharge, issues, and, a lot of people are trying to address that space. But there's a lot missing in terms of, well, what about the actual support community and family around the actual patient that you're trying to take care of and drive outcomes? And so our ability to actually be providing this organic engagement where you're having the support come onto the platform and identifying needs, having them connect to resources, you can actually starting to look at some of the community variables, whether point of care, what zip code they live in, what language they speak, what culture, community they're a part of, to be able to drive some of those recommendations. So there's a lot of interesting, at scale, we see the ability to do that. So maybe that's a little bit past 24 months, but the 12 to 24, sorry, I can take it further, but the 12 to 24 is certainly focused on partnerships and revenue, through the channel. So for us, upping our marketing efforts, of course, ensuring the technology will support it, but growing those partnerships from the military family aspect, widening the aperture to further oncology. And, as we talked about previously, there's a ton of crossover, end of life space, palliative, rare disease. We start looking at the other avenues that we can pursue. And then for us too, we were an SBIR recipient on the AFWORK side, so that makes us eligible for federal contracting. So, depending on how the market, as we all know, are following now, there's still funding on the federal side. So our advantage is that we are a service disabled minority owned business, which makes us preferential contracts, whether VA, which is the largest healthcare system in the country. Their national initiative is around, community engagement. So there's a lot of interesting, strategies that we can unfold. But the focus is, of course, more customers, more revenue, and ultimately, supporting as many families as we can.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I love that you mentioned, the fact that this is more of a data play long term, because as you start growing those communities, you're going to get a ton of data about the patients, about the communities, about their families, and I have a feeling that knowing what I know about the medical space and about the larger medical organizations, once you have that data, the sales cycle will start to shrink also.
That's right.
That
Right.
that's what you're expecting also?
Right, exactly. And to really just nail it in terms of, well, what's the play on the healthcare side? And this is directly out of the words out of a medical director's mouth for a large cancer institution, is you see you as the bridge in wraparound services for our families going through cancer. So bridging that gap that's not clinical, but focusing on family community and truly helping identify what are the needs of the community to better drive, those resource alignment side on the healthcare. So, there's a ton there. And then that's, there's, as you know, a ton of defensibility on a community, in a community and a network side. So, of course, early stage chicken and egg, which is why early engagement through military families actually opens that door for us to be able to move forward. So
That's fantastic. Fantastic. So this is a big mission, and this is a big sort of project that you're going after. Tell me about who's sort of with you. So you touched on your co-founder a little bit, but tell me more about rest of the team and what that looks like.
Yeah, obviously first and foremost, call them family. Because family's first, right? But yeah, really fortunate to have put together a strong team at our stage. So Clay and I, of course, we always say climbing up the backside of the mountain. But really, everyone has a strong touch point, having been either a patient, a supporter, a caregiver. And so when you talk about the culture aspect, it's definitely humbling. And I always say, right, you always surround yourself with smarter people and people that are better than you. So that's always a good goal of mine. It's not easy. It's not hard to do that with me. So yeah. But Trevor Profit, he's our business ops lead. He is also a Naval Academy graduate, Navy veteran. He's also a Johns Hopkins grad. He's also a Pat Tillman scholar. He's also a Stanford GSB graduate, and he has startup experience in Baltimore post Hopkins and before GSB. And I always used to joke that, Trevor was our employee number one. Well, how'd you recruit a GSP guy to work for you for nothing for 5 months? I think he was driving my old car for 4 or 5 months as his payment. But his mother passed to cancer while he was at GSB, and he wanted to be a part of a mission aligned team that was going to have an impact. And so, Trevor's been in the fight with us, and fortunate to have him. He's a rock star. So
Wait.
Trevor's ops are head
Before
of.
before we go
Yep.
to the
Sorry.
next person, I want to hear more about the car story, because I know
Oh
there's
yeah,
a story
sure.
there also.
Yeah. So, I happened to, I had an old, what was it, 1999 Explorer that I had even growing up in LA. And we'll just say gas mileage, on the startup life, I was paying way too much every month. And so I actually ended up getting a hybrid to be smart on the financial side. And so I had, his name's Henry, by the way, the car's name's Henry, for those
Okay.
who are actually interested. But, Trevor and his wife had one car, and when they moved down to San Diego, I said, hey, I don't have much. I'll pay for your lunches, and you can drive Henry. If you want to, try give Family Proud a test drive, right, for a couple months. And he went through the accelerator with us at that time, and he's still with us. So, and he's still driving Henry. So he's taking care of him.
Fantastic.
So we'll call it add on to his minimum wage salary that he's been taking to support Family Proud. So yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Okay, so that's employee number one. Who
That's
else do
right.
you have
Yeah.
on the team?
Yeah, Leland Clinista, he's our tech lead, startup experience, full stack guy. And, our tech team and story is really unique, in that Clay and I are not, we do not have a tech background, right? So it's a unique aspect of being a technology company. But once again, back to surrounding yourself with the best people. We had really strong advisors at the early stage. And we actually, one of our advisors was a USC and LA alum, and he actually connected us with a program at USC that you can apply your company to. They actually, a team of 7 graduate students at USC selected our company because of the mission, and basically took us from wireframe. And in that time frame, I recruited people for the team to transition it. But once a week for about 6 months, I would take the train up from San Diego, meet the team, essentially acting as product manager, bring them dinner, run a session, and then take the last train back. And I would do that once a week for about 6 months. And that got us to an alpha. And in that time, recruited Leland, Chris, who was there prior to Leland, and he's one of our advisors right now. And Chris was truly was CTO for us. And when COVID hit, of course, to be able to take care of his family, had to take a full-time job. And so he's prepared to come back in full time, once we have the ability to pay but he's very much part of the family. And Leland, that's why he's tech lead versus CTO. So acting CTO, all intents and purposes. But point being, Leland, Chris, Steph, some strong tech. Everything's been internal, so it's been great. So.
Fantastic. And I know you have the entire team in your pitch deck. So people who want to get to know more about the team, they can certainly log in and get access to that. So that's fantastic. I want to sort of start to wrap up this story, but I want to talk a little bit more about what your plan is for the investment that you're expecting. What are sort of the next steps? What are you looking to execute on right away?
Yeah, biggest thing is to bring in a full-time marketing person. Aspect there. There's a ton that we can be doing, both in engagement and customer acquisition on that side. Lauren, our current marketing and communications, she's awesome, but she's part-time, right? And so there's a ton more that we can be doing, and that, quite frankly, the leads and the inroads that we have, it's just a matter of moving as fast as we can, right? So with the resources that we have. So certainly large portion dedicated to marketing. And, in terms of percentages, 40% marketing, and then 60% is to keep current staff on, even at minimum, wage that we're sitting at, to keep moving. So certainly staff and marketing are the split there in a 60-40.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Yeah, no, this was fantastic, and thank you so much for coming on today. And we're hoping that we can get you the resources you need to sort of keep pushing forward, because this is a fantastic mission. And once again, thank you for your service and for starting this amazing mission. I'm excited to be a part of it, and look forward to sort of uh, getting you the right investors to take your business to the next level.
Yeah, no, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Yep. All right. That was a fantastic interview. Again, I want to thank Vijay for coming on today and doing the interview with us and sharing his experience and his knowledge. And there's a ton to learn from him. Having said that, if you enjoyed the interview and if you enjoy content like this, make sure you click the subscribe button. So this way you get our content as soon as it comes out. Um, if you're an investor, once again, if you're looking to learn how to be an investor or are an angel investor already and are looking to get resources, get connected to companies in our system, make sure you send us an email. My email address is on screen. It's also in the description below. Send us your contact information, and we'll be in touch. We'll get you added to our platform and hopefully help you start becoming a better investor. If you are an entrepreneur and and are looking to raise capital for your startup, go to startupsteroid.com and click on the founder button there. Fill out the form, and this way we can get you added to our database and start sharing your information with our network. Thank you again for joining us today. Make sure you hit subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye.